What does Helena's Tapestry mean? House of the Dragon finale explained. Spoiler warning. This video contains major spoilers for the House of the Dragon Season 3 finale, including Helena's final moments, her prophetic tapestry, Rhaenyra's fate, and major events from the Dance of the Dragons. What if Helaena Targaryen's final tapestry wasn't simply a piece of art? What if it was her final warning? Throughout Season 3, Helaena has been quietly stitching images into a tapestry while the world around her falls apart. At first, it looks like another strange hobby from a character who has always seen the world differently. But by the finale, that tapestry becomes something much darker. Helaena finishes it shortly before her death, and when Rhaenyra sees it, the image appears to show the fate waiting for her. Rhaenyra is sitting on the Iron Throne. But something is terribly wrong. There is blood, there is fire, there are dragons, and the entire image feels less like a celebration of Rhaenyra becoming queen and more like a warning about what that victory will cost her. So, what does Helena's tapestry actually mean? The simplest answer is that it represents Helena's visions of the future. But there is a lot more going on. Helaena has been established as a prophetic character since the beginning of the series. Her strange comments often sound meaningless at first, but later events reveal that she has been describing things that haven't happened yet. We've already seen her correctly foresee major events, including Aemon's eventual fate. Ryan Condal has also explained that the show's version of Helaena has been deliberately developed as a visionary, making her prophetic abilities much more important than they are in the original Fire and Blood. So when Helaena starts stitching images into her tapestry, we shouldn't automatically treat them as random decorations. They are part of the way she processes what she sees. And the most important image is the one involving Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra appears seated on the Iron Throne. Normally, that should be an image of victory. This is what Rhaenyra has spent the entire series fighting for. But Helena's version of that victory is surrounded by death and destruction. That contrast is the entire point. Rhaenyra may eventually sit on the throne, but sitting on it doesn't mean she wins. In fact, Helena's tapestry suggests that the throne itself may become part of Rhaenyra's destruction. And that idea connects directly to what happens to Rhaenyra throughout Season 3. At the beginning of the series, Rhaenyra believes she can claim the throne without becoming the kind of ruler she hates. But the longer the war continues, the more extreme her decisions become. By the finale, she is willing to execute the High Septon after he refuses to legitimize her claim. She also becomes increasingly isolated from the people around her, and Helaena sees the direction Rhaenyra is heading. That makes the tapestry feel almost like a visual prophecy. Helaena isn't simply predicting that Rhaenyra will become queen, she's showing what that crown will cost her. There is another important detail in the tapestry. Rhaenyra appears to be bleeding. Fans have spent a lot of time discussing exactly what that blood represents. Some viewers interpret it as a direct visual reference to Rhaenyra's eventual death. Others see it as the bloodshed caused by her attempt to hold the Iron Throne. And both interpretations fit the show's larger symbolism. The Iron Throne has never been presented as a normal chair. It is dangerous, it is physically sharp, politically destructive, and almost impossible to hold without sacrificing something. The tapestry turns that idea into an image. Rhaenyra gets the throne, but the throne gets her blood in return. There is also fire surrounding the image. Again, the exact symbolism hasn't been officially explained scene by scene, so we should separate confirmed meaning from fan interpretation. But the imagery strongly connects to the destruction of the Targaryen dynasty and the catastrophic consequences of the Dance of the Dragons. The dragons that were supposed to make House Targaryen unstoppable become part of the family's destruction. That's one of the great ironies of the story. The Targaryens believe dragons make them powerful, but the civil war turns those dragons against one another. And eventually, the dragons themselves begin disappearing from the world. So Helena's tapestry isn't simply about Rhaenyra. It's about the entire Targaryen dream collapsing. There is another fascinating detail. The tapestry itself becomes part of the show's opening sequence. As season 3 progresses, the imagery changes and grows. New events are stitched into the fabric. Deaths, battles, betrayals, and major moments appear as part of one enormous visual history. That means the tapestry isn't just an object inside the story. It becomes a visual representation of the dance itself. Every new thread represents another piece of the tragedy. And Helaena is essentially turning history into art before it has even happened. That's why her final tapestry feels so disturbing. She isn't just recording the past, she is seeing the future. And this makes her final conversation with Rhaenyra even more important. Rhaenyra looks at the tapestry, but she doesn't completely understand what Helaena is showing her. That is a recurring tragedy with Helaena. She sees things other people cannot see. But knowing the future doesn't necessarily mean she can change it. In fact, Helena's visions often seem to make her more isolated. She knows terrible things are coming. She knows people around her are going to die, and she has almost no power to stop them. That makes her different from the other Targaryens. They want to control the future. Helaena simply sees it. And by the finale, that ability has become a burden she can no longer carry. Her death makes the tapestry even more tragic. She has spent the season stitching together the story of a family destroying itself. And then she becomes part of that story. The actress Fia Sabin has described Helena's final arc as deeply meaningful, and recent interviews confirm that the character's embroidery was deliberately connected to her evolving journey. The tapestry is therefore not just a prophecy. It is Helena's way of communicating. She cannot always explain what she sees in normal language, so she stitches it. She turns visions into images. And when Rhaenyra finally sees the completed work, the audience is essentially being shown the warning Helaena has been trying to communicate all along. But there is an even deeper interpretation. The tapestry may represent the difference between what Rhaenyra thinks her story is and what Helaena knows it will become. Rhaenyra sees the Iron Throne as the destination. Helaena sees the consequences. Rhaenyra thinks becoming queen will prove she was right. Helena's tapestry suggests that the crown may instead become the symbol of everything she loses. And that is why the final image is so powerful. It isn't saying that Rhaenyra was wrong to want the throne. It is showing that winning the throne and surviving the war are two completely different things. The Dance of the Dragons is ultimately a story about the price of power. Almost everyone who gets closer to the Iron Throne loses something: family, love, children, friends, their morality, sometimes their lives. And Helena's tapestry turns that entire idea into one image: a queen on the throne, blood running down her, fire around her, dragons surrounding the destruction. It is victory and defeat happening at the same time. There is also an important connection to Helaena herself. Her final tapestry is almost like a goodbye letter. Not necessarily a literal suicide note, but a final attempt to communicate what she understands. By this point, Helaena has suffered enormous trauma. She has lost her son. She has been imprisoned. She has been manipulated by people around her. And she is carrying visions of events that haven't happened yet. In the finale, she finally chooses to take control of her own fate. Her death is tragic, but the show presents it as an act of agency after a season in which almost everyone has tried to control her. That makes the tapestry even more heartbreaking. She knows what is coming. She knows what happens to Rhaenyra. She knows the war will continue. And she leaves behind the only language she feels capable of using: images, threads, blood, fire, dragons. So, what does Helena's tapestry mean? The safest answer is that it is a visual representation of her prophetic visions and the destruction surrounding the Targaryen civil war. The image of Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne represents her eventual rise to power. But the blood and fire surrounding her suggest that this victory comes with an enormous price. And because the show has deliberately connected Helena's embroidery with the opening tapestry, the artwork also becomes a visual record of the Dance of the Dragons itself. But remember, some individual symbols are still open to interpretation. The show has not officially provided a complete guide explaining every single animal, figure, or thread, so theories about specific images should remain theories. What is much clearer is the larger message. Helaena sees the future. Rhaenyra wants to control it. And the tapestry shows that neither power nor dragons can prevent the tragedy that is coming. That's why Helena's final artwork is so important. She isn't simply stitching a picture. She's stitching a warning. And Rhaenyra is finally looking directly at the future Helaena has been trying to show everyone. A future where the Iron Throne can be won, but cannot truly be conquered. And where the crown that Rhaenyra fights so hard to wear may ultimately become the very thing that destroys her.